Having a good time. I'm Carrie Champion, Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith.
How are you?
What's going on?
Everyone's in studio.
I feel good today.
I told y'all I would be back.
You did say that, but we didn't believe
I mean, I don't know why. I ain't let y'all down yet. If I told you I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here.
Okay.
You do.
I'm in the house.
He's in the house. Well, there's a lot to talk about. There's a full football weekend. Plenty to discuss from the weekend. The Saints, a Super Bowl pick for many, are now 0-2. And
Seriously?
by many, I mean Stephen A. Smith. But is there still hope? Stephen A. will weigh in. Plus,
Yes.
RGIII likely out for the season with a dislocated ankle. Can Washington move forward with Kirk Cousins? That's a huge question. We'll get to that. But first, Chargers and Seahawks, defending Super Bowl champions, lost 30-21 in San Diego. Phillip Rivers was 28 of 37, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not only is Rivers the first quarterback to throw 3 touchdowns against the Seahawks in a regular season game since Stafford in 2012, but he threw all 3 touchdowns with Sherman on the field. Richard Sherman did not speak to the media, but he did respond to several players who said Sherman was exposed. Here's his tweet, laughing my butt off. Exposed? Question mark. Complete 3 passes, 0 touchdowns, 0 explosive passes. These guys make me laugh. These guys make me laugh. That's Richard's response. Skip Bayless, you saw the game. And by the way, let's take a moment because you don't get many kudos.
Yes, he does. That's not true.
Well, not on this show.
Please.
Really?
Please. Skip Bayless?
Really, does it?
Please.
I don't remember.
That's a big time amnesia right there.
Okay,
Skip gets a lot of love.
But you remember we did our NFL preseason show, and he said the only loss that he could see the Seahawks have would be against the Chargers. He said it'd be 15-1.
That's right. He called it. And then panicked a few days before the game.
Well, I don't want to upset the Legion of Boom because they do watch they were doomed yesterday, yes. They do watch the show. So I tried to soft shoe it, and I was a little nervous after, obviously, San Diego blew on opening night at Arizona, a 17-6 lead going into the fourth quarter. But go ahead and ask your question.
Rightfully so, but good for you. Anyway, so watching the game yesterday, does this prove that the Seahawks are vulnerable?
Stephen A. Smith, to me, yesterday proved absolutely nothing. 0 about the Seattle Seahawks' vulnerability. In fact, I thought in the few moments they actually had the football, their offense looked far more explosive than it looked last year. They will be much better on offense going forward this year. I did say the Seahawks would lose 1 game at San Diego, but they would go 15-1. So I'm driving the bandwagon from here on. And it will start, by the way, back again next Sunday in Seattle when the Denver Broncos visit. But I have said that the San Diego Chargers will be a breakthrough team this year, a breakout team, and I'm sticking with my prediction they will win the AFC West by dethroning the Denver Broncos, who look a little shaky. And I think they will look much shakier in Seattle next Sunday afternoon. Phillip Rivers is great at winning this kind of game because we know he gets fired up. He wants to spit in your face if you're going to spit back in his. He wants to jaw with you, trash talk with you, and he's really good at making all the little big plays required to hang on to the football. 10 times Phillip Rivers converted on 3rd down out of 17 tries. 42 minutes and 15 seconds. Phillip Rivers and company with a lot of help from Antonio Gates. He ain't over the hill yet, is he?
Not over the hill.
No, thank you.
That's right.
42 minutes and 15 seconds. They hung on to the ball and forced Seattle's defense to stay on the field in temperatures that reportedly went as high in some points on the field as 118?
Jeez.
Seriously? And you got to play 42 minutes and 15 seconds in San Diego when you're not really used to that up in Seattle?
Temperature was listed at 94,
Thank you very much.
But it was about 118 on the field. You're right.
There you go. San Diego's longest gain yesterday, their longest play, was a 21-yard touchdown pass to Antonio Gates that put them up 27-14. Usually it's bombs away in most games. There'll be a couple long runs, couple long passes. 21 yards, their longest play. So Seattle wasn't exposed. Richard Sherman wasn't exposed, except if you put quicker receivers on him, because he's longer and lankier, it takes him a little while to get unwound a little bit. So, yeah, he has a little trouble if you can get a free release off the line of scrimmage. You can torment him a little bit, but he's right. He gave up 3 little catches. No big explosive plays, but again, when you have the football for only 17 minutes and 45 seconds, what damage are you going to do on the scoreboard? Not enough. So, big picture, I think that San Diego is much better than they showed when they blew that 17-6 lead in the fourth quarter at Arizona.
Right.
And I think Seattle is actually going to be better than they were last year.
Well, I think Seattle's going to be inspired. There's no question about it, because they're devoid of any punks on their roster. They show up. They've got a lot of heart. They've got a lot of guts. They're physical or what have you. And I think that rather than them losing the game yesterday, I think what resonated with me was how they lost. San Diego, an AFC West team, was more physical than the Seattle Seahawks. They went at the Legion of Boom. They said, we're not scared of you by any stretch of the imagination. They were talking trash. They were in their face. They made it a point to send the message that we're not backing down from you, and I think that resonates. Now, Phillip Rivers ended up with a quarterback rating of 124. He was big time yesterday when it counted. Obviously, he connected with Gates on 3 touchdown passes, including that 21-yarder where Gates went up with the left hand and extended his left hand and came down with it flat on his back, held the ball up, let the referee know, I got the football. They were balling. They were physical. I saw the Legion of Boom on the sidelines. I saw Cam Chancellor and those boys getting on each other, getting in each other's face, letting them know we're not playing the brand of football that we're capable of playing. So if ever there was a day for your prediction, and you do deserve kudos for this, because if ever there was a day where your prediction, big picture, seemed very, very much on the money, it's this. It's today, because if you're Seattle with the kind of heart they have to lose the way that you lost yesterday, it's just going to make them that much more rough. You understand? They're going to come right at you. I think they'll be even more physical. I think they'll look to impose their will even more. And in most instances, they're not going to be playing in 118-degree weather on the field. So because you don't have that to be worried about when you're on the road in most of the games that you've got coming up this season, I think that's going to bode well for them. But I also think that Pete Carroll dropped the ball on this game. Beast mode. Marshawn Lynch, 6 carries. 6 carries.
He didn't seem real pleased about it either.
Listen, he shouldn't have been real pleased about it. He's Marshawn Lynch. You understand? This dude, I'm talking about in terms of the Seattle Seahawks offense, it rides with him. We could talk about Russell Wilson till the cows come home. It's about beast mode. It's about Marshawn Lynch. He's the rough rider. We know what Percy Harvin could do. We know how electric he could be, as he showed in special teams yesterday. We know what Russell Wilson could do in terms of his composure, his leadership, his abilities. Nobody's questioning that. He's a big-time quarterback, and he's a resident champion as we speak. But they are not Marshawn Lynch. And to be in that weather, under those conditions, okay, which are relatively ideal outside of the heat getting to you in terms of the field, in terms of the weather, no inclement weather, no rain, no snow, no anything like that. How could you possibly justify not giving Marshawn Lynch the ball more than 6 times? It's inexcusable that would happen.
I don't know if you noticed, but he exited a little early.
Yes, he did. I noticed. It was decided down, but it was decided. But he walked right off the field and what have you. And listen. You could call it unsportsman. I didn't go that route. What I was looking at was a dude that, first of all, was clearly disgusted because he lost, but was clearly disgusted at his lack of utilization that Pete Carroll threw his way yesterday.
I'm fine
and I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Okay. Speaking of lack of utilization, after Percy Harvin fumbled the kickoff, which was a crucial play in that game, a big turnaround play, he disappeared from sight for a while.
Yes, he did.
I don't know if he was dinged up a little bit, if his head was spinning a little bit, or if Pete Carroll just said, you know what?
Yeah, take a break.
And I'm just going to keep you over here by me for a while. Then he got the late little, what do they call it, their speed sweep, you know, and San Diego sniffed it out on the first play of the last drive and blew it up. But that was the first sighting of Percy Harvin I'd seen in couple of quarters, it seemed like.
I know Wisenhunt isn't there any longer, but I got to give him a lot of credit because since when he arrived in San Diego, Phillip Rivers has been a different quarterback. He's returned to the Phillip Rivers of old. We know he's got a lot of guts. We know he's got a lot of ability. We know what kind of yards he accumulates. But I look at Matthews, I look at Floyd, I look at Keenan Allen, these boys with Gates. They got a potent offense in San Diego. But the defense and these guys rolling around the way that they do. I mean, and then you look at a guy, I want to give credit where credit is due, because there's never anything earth-shattering, but there's a lot to be said for Manti Te'o being in that starting lineup as a second-round pick and showing up and being in that lineup every single week, and the way that they play with this guy on the field. He may not be the ringleader or anything like that, but just some of the personnel that I see them having. Because if you say whatever you want about Manti Te'o, when he was in college at Notre Dame, before they ran into Alabama for the national championship game, what you saw in Manti Te'o was a guy that went after it every single play, and he had that kind of guts. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I saw yesterday, watching San Diego play this football game.
You understand.
It's impressive.
You understand. Two of their best defensive players suddenly couldn't go yesterday. Brandon Flowers hurt himself in practice.
That's right.
And Jarrett Johnson had to be with his pregnant wife. So those are two down where, again, they didn't have to defend very much because Seattle barely had the ball.
Yeah.
But as those guys come back, Seattle's going to be a factor.
All right.
Sorry, San Diego.
Sunday, Denver at Seattle, rematch of Super Bowl 48, 4:25 Eastern. A big game. We look forward to it. Let's move on. And Stephen A, feel free to sing if you'd like, because we're talking about the Commodores. During the late game, many of you may have gone to bed thinking that the Bears lost the game, but Jay Cutler led the Bears to a comeback victory over the 49ers with 4 touchdown passes and 0 picks. Cutler connected with Brandon Marshall for 3 and tight end Martellus Bennett for 1. Here's Marshall after the game.
It's tough being in games like this, but what happens is it builds character, it builds a stronger backbone. We're going to need it, with the schedule that we have and what we're trying to accomplish. So it's tough to be in this situation, but I think we grew a lot tonight.
Yeah, sure. How impressed were you?
I was very impressed, Skip Bayless. I must admit that about the Chicago Bears, and in particular your guy Jay Cutler. I also want to applaud Brandon Marshall for his bravery wearing that jacket that he wore.
I was just going to say,
but I won't go there.
I was just going to say.
He was very brave with that jacket yesterday.
I thought you were going to say bravery for playing with a bad ankle.
No, I was like, Stephen A has to comment on that jacket.
I had no doubt that Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey, with the ankle and groin injury respectively, were going to play in last night's game. You're going up against the San Francisco 49ers. You're in danger of falling to 0-2. You're going to play in that game if you're going to be the players that you say you are and that you're going to be. I knew they were going to play. Them being down, Colin Kaepernick didn't help with his 3 interceptions. The last 2 were not impressive. San Francisco, their offense is not that impressive. I mean, how many times are you going to look to Crabtree for crying out loud? I mean, you just got to find a way to get around that and to do what you need to do. Vernon Davis is out there for a reason. Bolden is out there for a reason. It ain't just Crabtree. I'm looking at their offense right now, and I'm not thoroughly impressed with what I'm seeing from the San Francisco 49ers. Their home crowd is just pathetic. I mean, I'm sorry. I have to call them out on national television. I mean, at certain points, I thought this was Soldier Field.
Really?
I mean, it was loud up in there. Every time Chicago made a play, I didn't hear boos. I heard cheers, okay? Something wrong with that home crowd. I kind of missed them at Candlestick Park because what I'm seeing is just not impressive. Their home crowd is just pathetic right now. Get it together, please. But let me get back to this team. The Chicago Bears, we know they have the requisite weapons. You got Cutler, you got Forte, you got Jeffries, you got Bennett, who scored the touchdown pass, you got Jeffries. They got weapons all over the place. They showed up last night. They could have easily folded. They didn't. Against San Francisco's defense, albeit devoid of Bowman, devoid of Alden Smith and those boys, still in all, your respectable defense, and you had a lead, and you couldn't hold it if you were the San Francisco 49ers because the Bears' offense showed up. And I look at them, balanced offensive attack, Jay Cutler spreading the ball, just 176 yards, but a 119 passer rating, which means he basically didn't beat himself. And I just looked at them and I said, you know something? This is the kind of team that could make some noise if they could be consistent. I'm still not sold on them, but last night they surprised me. I did not expect them to come back and win that game. They got it done. They deserve a lot of credit.
All great points. Now, here's my bottom line takeaway from what I witnessed last night. And I stayed up for the last drop.
So
it was good to
the
last drop.
So did I.
Literally to the last drop, because Crabtree almost had that last pass. That was close. It's a pretty good throw.
Touched his hands, but it was still a tough pass to catch.
My takeaway is Colin Kaepernick last night turned into Jay Cutler. Bad Jay Cutler, the Cutler you often criticize, rightfully so, on this show. Right. Colin Kaepernick, as the favorite in this game, tried to rely on his huge arm to a fault.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it through that crack. I'm going to throw it between those two guys. I'm going to get away with this over here because we got to blow these guys out, because they should have blown them out in the first half. It looked like several points it was going to turn into a blowout. And he threw 3 picks. And he also, as Jay often does, got a little careless with the football, this on a run, and Jared Allen put his helmet on the football, and it's free. So Colin Kaepernick hands the Chicago Bears 4 turnovers. Jay Cutler, the most important number of the night for Big J? 0. Thank you very much. You're way ahead of the game, Miss Champion. Way to go. You get a star, gold star.
Gold star for a gold star.
The big 0. Nothing. Jay Cutler didn't turn the ball over. You know why he didn't, in my humble estimation?
Go ahead.
As I evaluate my fellow Commodore.
Yes.
Jay Cutler knew that last night Alshon Jeffrey is dragging around a bad hamstring, and Brandon Marshall is hobbled on a really bad ankle. Neither one of them could run, so you can't force anything. You got to be, and I don't use these words too often with Jay Cutler, poised and patient. He was poised and patient. He hung right in there. There was a little game manager going on in the second half with Jay Cutler. What was he? 13 of 14 in the second half for just 121. So no huge gains, but accurate, poised, good decision making. This is good Jay. This is what I wanted to see, because he knew he couldn't get away. You can't be throwing it up for grabs in a night like that, because who's going to go get those passes? Martellus occasionally, but not that often. So to me, I love the way he played, and I got to point out this once again. A lot of people think Jay Cutler's kind of weak. He's a little soft. Nobody in this league has taken more punishment and jumped up from it over the last, 6 or 8 years than Jay Cutler has. And can we see that play that Dial got him last night? Remember this? Late in the first half? Boom! He gets the spear job right in the chest. Oh, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. Oh,
let's show it again.
Yeah.
They showed it again.
Yeah, that was it.
There.
Boom! And Chris Collinsworth immediately said, I'm not sure he's going to get up from this one. And I wasn't sure either. But Stephen A., did he not jump right up and throw a touchdown pass to Brandon Marshall that got them back in the game?
Listen, first of all, anybody that knows anything about football knows Jay Cutler's toughness. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you negate or neglect or engage in selective amnesia when it comes to that NFC Championship game against the Green Bay Packers, when suddenly all that toughness wasn't enough because you couldn't backpedal to throw in the pocket, but you could be on the sidelines riding a bicycle. That's what the knock against Jay Cutler was, because it's the closest you've ever been to a Super Bowl appearance. It's the one season you actually had a playoff victory in your entire career. All you needed was another one, and you were going to the Super Bowl, and you couldn't go after taking all the punishment over the years that you've taken in every other circumstance.
But he was diagnosed by the Bears doctors with a sprained medial collateral ligament.
I understand.
And he said he couldn't plant and throw. When he stepped back to plant his right leg, it was buckling under him. And he said, I'm just going to hurt my team if I try to play.
All right. You can look at it that way. I look at it as there's plenty of instances and circumstances where he was getting popped silly. He didn't even seem to be in his right mind. He was like a boxer that got up and received a standing 8 count and was still wobbling in front of the referee. And he still went out there and threw passes, albeit interceptions half the time. He still went out there and played. My attitude is, you're in the NFC Championship game, you're a heartbeat away from the Super Bowl, go for it. That's just me. That's just me, because he's always taking it. Now, if he had gotten injured and left games before, that would be different. But you take everything every other time, but you're a heartbeat away from the Super Bowl, you're in the NFC Championship game, and suddenly you can't go? I'm sorry. That's a hard issue to me. It's a hard issue to me.
I cannot defend his playoff resume.
No, you can't.
But I can say that last night was a blueprint for good Jay Cutler.
Sure.
If we could see more of that going forward, I think they have a chance to be pretty good.
Well, I think if we can see more of that more often, you can say that about a lot of quarterbacks. The fact of the matter is, Jay Cutler hasn't given you any reason to expect to see that from him. It's about, 9 years and 1 playoff victory, very Tony Romo-esque. So I'm sorry.
So after all those good things you said,
Midwest.
Right?
That's right.
Go on.
You said all those good things about Jay Cutler, but then you had to slam.
He deserves the credit for last night's performance, but it was one night. Here's your cookie.
Bayless says he was much of a game manager, dare he say, but in a good way. Martellus Bennett on Jay Cutler in the huddle, he said he absolutely was a game manager. He controlled everyone's emotions and told us we were in it to the very last moment. Vikings running back Adrian Peterson disciplined his 4-year-old son last May with a switch. That discipline, in the words of an assistant district attorney in Montgomery County, Texas, went beyond what would be considered, quote, reasonable. That leaves Peterson facing a felony charge for injuring his child, as well as a review by the NFL under its toughened personal conduct policy. Peterson turned himself in early Saturday morning and posted $15,000 bond. He has returned to Minnesota, but the Vikings decided to deactivate Peterson for the game against the Patriots. Peterson has yet to address the charges, and his first court appearance has not been scheduled. But if it comes to this, a trial would be held next year. We're having a conversation today about this. Stephen A. Smith, what do you believe the NFL and the Vikings should do in response to these charges?
It's tough to say, to be quite honest with you, because, first of all, what transpired based on what we saw in those pictures was child abuse. Anybody that saw those pictures, those marks on the child, and you hear they were on the legs and the ankles and the back and the arms, that's child abuse. It's a 4-year-old child. All right? There's nothing to say. There's nothing else to say other than it's child abuse. Now, you're going to have people explain it away. I saw the statement from Rusty Hardin, the lawyer for Adrian Peterson. And on one hand, you hear where the lawyer's coming from as it pertains to Adrian Peterson's upbringing. So you hear stuff like that and you say, okay, from a generational perspective, I can only speak from what I know, being a black man, having relatives, knowing what transpired in my household. You understand? I've had my behind whipped. It wasn't often. And it wasn't with a switch, but I had my behind whipped with a belt. I saw my sister get hit with a broomstick. I know relatives that have used a switch on their child from a generational perspective. So when Rusty Hardin, the lawyer, explains that, I know it's true, but it doesn't excuse it because we've evolved as a society. We've learned more. And this generation ain't that generation. And you're supposed to know better. I remember when my uncle one time hit my cousin, and the police came, and my uncle said, this is about 30 years ago. My uncle said to the police, you want to raise this kid? Because I'm trying to teach this kid discipline. And the police looked at him and said, you have a point, and walked away. Here's the problem. There's no way in hell that's happening today. You know better. Adrian Peterson has to know better. And to make this kind of error in judgment, particularly towards a child, a 4-year-old child, there is no excuse for this. You could try to explain it away. I cannot. But it also resonates with me on a different level, Skip Bayless. Because even though we're talking about Adrian Peterson in terms of child abuse, and obviously, whether better for worse or whatever, because there is no better as far as I'm concerned, but you consider the Ray Rice situation to involve 2 adults.
Yep.
Let me read some names to you, Skip Bayless. From USA Today, NFL players arrested. Robert Sands, Chris Rainey, Leroy Hill, Amari Spivey, Darrell Washington, A.J. Jefferson, Ray Rice, Greg Hardy, Adrian Peterson. It resonates with me even more substantially because every single one of these players are black. Every one of them. Now that's starting to, and that's hitting home for me as well. So it's a double whammy because it's wrong, but then you see it emanating from our community consistently, where if the police blotters were made public, which it is, I'm just talking about on TV, I know it's public, but then you put mugshots up in there, you just see black men all over the place. And that's a conversation, I guess, for a different day. But maybe it is for the day, because I also have a letter here. You know what this letter here is, Skip? This is from the House Judiciary Committee. 12 members of the committee, all Democrats, wrote a letter to Roger Goodell calling for more transparency, questioning why he couldn't get a hold of the tape, wanting to make sure that the public knows, everybody knows what needs to be known, because this is a problem that needs to be addressed. And it was signed by 12 members of the House Judiciary Committee, and it was CC'd to every single commissioner in sports, from soccer to Major League Baseball, hockey, basketball, etc. Look, man, in the end, here's what these guys have to recognize. Society, we've evolved. We've transitioned to a different time. Certain things that were once tolerated are not going to be tolerated now, and they better get with the program, because everyone from the government itself to the leagues to Joe Public are sending a message. They are getting sick and tired of this nonsense. And you brothers had better get your act together or else. And unfortunately, when I say brothers, I'm not just talking about men.
Yeah.
On this particular instance, I have no choice but to aim it directly at black men, because there's nobody but black men being arrested for this kind of nonsense. Man, let me stop right there before I say something, man. Go ahead, man.
You covered a lot of ground. Let's go back to Adrian Peterson, and we can deal with the larger issue in a moment. May I please make the point as a white man?
Please.
This is not just a black family thing.
Okay.
On generational.
All right.
Hey, I was sent into the backyard to pick the switch with which I was going to be switched. I got the belt all the way up to 7th, 8th grade. We got bare butt paddled in school. So this is my generation.
Sure.
And listen, when I was 4 or 5 years old, if my father really got mad at me, and he was not a good man, but he would use open hand with wedding ring, quote unquote wedding ring, ironically, boom, bruised cheek, it's the way it was. Did I think twice? I didn't. I thought that's the way it was. You were probably raised
the same exact way. Look, when we first heard about this, my mother, some of the stuff she did in today's standards, she'd be under the jail. I literally under the jail. If I called the cops and said this woman spanked me, told me to grab my belt, and I got my whooping, quote unquote.
Okay.
It doesn't work today.
Okay, so I'm not even sure what generations are applying here. You're far younger than I am.
Yeah.
You were in Los Angeles, California, Pasadena, California. You're in New York City, in the borough of Queens. I'm in the middle of the country, in the Southwest, in Oklahoma City.
Sure.
And we're all pretty much getting raised kind of the same way, and it's the old spare the rod, spoil the child, right? Okay, so my only question here about Adrian Peterson is, and trust me, you were so dead right. This was child abuse. This was assault of a 4-year-old to me. And in no way, shape, or form am I trying to make an excuse for Adrian Peterson or let him off the hook. But when you ask me that question of how should he be punished by his team and his league, I'm with you. I don't know. I've never heard of this before. Sure. Now it's falling into a new realm where I'm very uncomfortable with what the punishment should be because of this. I do not believe that Adrian Peterson thought he was doing wrong when he was switching that kid. Am I right?
Neither do I.
Okay, in his heart of hearts, he thought his heart was in the right place. He thought he was doing a good thing, though he did admit in a text to the mother, I got a little carried away. I'm paraphrasing, but he said he got a little carried away. Now remember, pound for pound, this just might be the strongest man in the National Football League. And anybody who's ever shaken hands with Adrian, no, he can crush your hand in a handshake. So obviously, he's a candidate for getting carried away with a 4-year-old when he's trying to mete out his punishment. Am I right?
Sure.
Okay, but in his heart of hearts, and I know Adrian fairly well, and he's a Bible-fearing, Bible-toting man. He believes in the Bible, but he's old school. But there are those in the NFL who use drugs, or they assault somebody in a bar, or they assault a woman in their home, and they're doing something wrong, man. They could go to jail for this. Adrian's father went to prison for 7 years because he was laundering money for a crack cocaine ring in Palestine, Texas, okay? Did he know he was at risk? Sure he did. Am I right about that? Okay,
yes.
But now, how do we punish something that we all agree was dead wrong? He went completely over the edge with this punishment and pretty much admitted that. But now how do we punish him? Because if I say, okay, The Vikings should suspend him for 4 games. Well, then somebody's going to accuse me of condoning child abuse, because a lot of people would like Adrian gone for, banned for life for this, right?
Yeah.
But but don't you think the reason why this is so uncomfortable, because now we're saying how you should discipline your children?
Okay, we can't get. I don't know. That's your call. But there's a law that says you can only go this far.
Okay, so you don't know about the punishment.
Well, you've made the good point. We have pictures now, thanks to the DA, and the doctor that looked at over this.
The fact is that if the mother of Adrian Peterson's child had reported that Adrian Peterson did this and there were no pictures, we'd be like, well, what's the problem? That's none of our business.
Okay.
That's parents, dealing with their child. You see what I'm saying? You told her, to us it sounds like a spanking. But here's where Adrian Peterson could be in deep water.
Well, I think he is in deep water, but go ahead.
No, I'm talking about when we talk about in terms of punishment.
Okay.
What I'm saying is there's so much information that is out there in this day and age.
Yep.
And there are so many things that the NFL exposes their athletes to in terms of counseling and whether it's therapeutic or beyond or a little bit less excessive than that, whatever the case may be. The combination of information combined with access, combined with the society that we live in, not to mention the repeated perpetual complaints from society about what others may tend to get away with in the world of professional sports. All of these things are thrown out there for these athletes to absorb. So somewhere along the way, in the midst of your rage, not only do you need to see that it's a 4-year-old, you also need to see your own future and how something could potentially look if you indeed place yourself in this kind of situation. The fact that you were you appeared incapable or oblivious to that lends itself towards providing an indication that there was some kind of rage that you were enduring at that particular moment, which heightens or gives credence to the belief that this child got abused in that particular situation. And so when you connect the dots on that level, he's in a tough spot here.
Yes, he is.
But at the same time, you're right.
Right, but okay, so Stephen A., the Vikings deactivate him on Sunday. How do you believe the NFL and the Vikings should respond?
I don't know. I, honest to God, don't know.
It's a tough
because, look, I can look at Ray Rice in that video, and I can legitimately say what he deserved.
Right.
Okay? I'm thinking about a parent spanking their child excessively. I got a problem with it. I don't like it.
And you're a parent.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I don't like it because I've been educated.
Okay.
I agree. And I do think this is another one of those great teaching moments where I think a lot of people of generations can be enlightened that you can't bring blood here.
Bottom line, here's the best way I can close this out. If this were the 60s or the 70s when I was a kid, I literally would have been like, what's the problem? This is basically normal to me. It's the fact that we're in the year 2014.
And in the wake of this the climate has changed.
You said something. You said this has been these past 2 weeks in the NFL, and I don't want to put all the onus on the league, but some great teachable moments. From the Ray Rice situation, we see domestic violence. We have a picture. We have faces. I know people may feel like, so what? We've already known about it, but we really are understanding it at this point in time. And the same thing with Adrian Peterson. What should the NFL do? How should the Vikings respond? That's a tough ask.
Now, you said he
doesn't. He said he doesn't know.
But you said that Adrian should have known better. Well, now he knows better.
Now he
does.
Right?
Yeah. Knows better now.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know.
I know.
I am lost on this one because this is. I can't. In all my years of covering the league, I can't remember this ever coming up as an issue. Do you? I don't remember anything in any sport.
And to be honest, when we discussed it this morning, we didn't know how to go about it, and we didn't have any answers. And so we just wanted to present the conversation. We'll have more First Take after the break. Mike Pettis. got his first win as a rookie head coach. Browns beat the Saints 26-24 for the first time in a decade. The Browns are 1-0 at home. Hoyer went 8 of 11 for 78 yards on that last drive to get the win for the Browns. Drew Brees, 27 of 40, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. They don't play too well on the road. And now the Saints are 0-2. Many Super Bowl pick would be the Saints, not just Stephen A, so I'm not giving him a hard time. Stephen A, are you giving up on the Saints now?
No, but I'm pretty damn close. I got to admit to you. I understand that the Saints are going to lose some games. I understand that there are some weekends that they're just not going to be on their A game. You got Drew Brees, you've got Jimmy Graham, you've got Colston on those boys. I'm not going to worry about it, especially with Sean Payton calling plays. But what I saw yesterday was incredibly alarming. Brian Hoyer, 85-yard drive.
Yeah.
28-yard reception to Hawkins, where the defense lets you get over, allows you to get behind them, and he throws an over-the-top pass to put Cundiff in position to kick the winning field goal with just 3 seconds left. I'm looking at that, and I'm saying, what the hell is going on with this defense? This defense, Skip Bayless. Let me tell you something right now. As I look at this Saints defense, I am not impressed at all. I don't blame Sean Payton for being on the sidelines literally yelling at Rob Ryan. I don't blame him one bit. 892 yards surrendered in the first 2 games, 63 points. You're ranked 31st defensively, 30th in yards allowed, dead last in yards against the pass. You're the worst passing defense in the NFL for the first 2 weeks of this season. Super Bowl champions don't start out like that. So I'm incredibly concerned about the Saints. This was the 4th-ranked defense last year. I thought Rob Ryan had them steered in the right direction. That does not appear to be the case. I know the Falcons are not a team to be slept on, even though they lost yesterday. I get all of that. I know that Cleveland is better than we're giving them credit for, particularly defensively. Even though Joe Hayden's big time, he had a big-time problem against Jimmy Graham.
He did.
But in the end, what it comes down to me is that this defense stinks right now. And they've got to get their act together. I'm shocked that the Saints defense, Rob Ryan's defense, has looked this bad. I really am. And I'm this close. I'm trying to get, because I know I want to see them win at home.
Sure. And
then come back on the road again and see how they are once they get a win under their belt before I make the decision. But I'm losing faith in the Saints big time.
I kidded on Twitter yesterday that your Saints have become an accident waiting to happen, because they have been.
Right.
Accidents keep happening to them late in games.
Yeah.
But I don't blame you for not jumping off the bandwagon just yet. Now, if you're talking about getting to the Super Bowl, I don't know. We're going to have to see if Seattle's bandwagon begins to roll again, because I think you and I agree. It will come down to, where is the NFC championship game?
Right.
If it's up there in the Northwest, no way.
No happening.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Even name a team. Nobody's going up there and winning, I don't think, at this point. Maybe somebody will emerge. Maybe the Carolina Panthers are better than we think, but I don't think so. So that means I look at that division. So as far as that division goes, I don't know about Atlanta. I'm just not sure, because Atlanta is ranked below now the Saints in defense, right? Because they got it handed to them in Cincinnati yesterday. And I thought Tampa was going to be pretty good, and apparently they're going to be pretty bad the way they've started out, because they just lost to the St. Louis Rams at home. So that brings me back to this team. Is it possible that Rob Ryan's defense was just a one-year wonder, just an aberration, where they played way over their heads last year? It's possible.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm seeing so far this year. I've not seen one sign of a playoff caliber defense, which means the onus falls back on the quarterback to be a top 5 quarterback. And you know what? I'm not sure he has been in the first 2 games. And he wasn't yesterday against the Browns defense that, by the way, they're ranked 31st in yards allowed. So they haven't been world-beating so far. So all of a sudden, and by the way, another quick point for you. Do you realize, this is just a freaky stat, that it's been since week 7 of 2008 since we had only one 300-yard passer in the whole Sunday, so far, the whole. and it was your bad man, Aaron Rodgers. He was the only one who went over 300 yards. Well, doesn't Drew Brees, like isn't 300 plus a bad game for him?
You would think.
Like 237, yes.
237?
Yep.
So my point is,
not the Drew Brees I know.
Right.
nobody in the league went over 300 except for the bad man who had he had a hellacious game to bring back the Packers against the Jets. We'll talk about that later. But Drew Brees couldn't bring his team back. It got in trouble, and then it looked like he had, but then the defense couldn't hang on to it. But again, against the Browns defense, I thought the Saints could put up 35 or 40. Seriously, I did. And they couldn't because Drew Brees is not playing at a supreme level that we have seen him play.
Well, listen, they had a lot going up against them. I mean, you're in Cleveland. They haven't won a home opener since 2004.
Yep.
We understand that the odds are stacked against them. You look at the way they performed, at least in the first half of their opener against the Steelers. You've got that going on. Then Hoyer's upset because Johnny Manziel was thrown into the game for a few plays.
Yep.
He didn't like that at all. The defense.
I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either. The defense is legit. We all know that, but offensively, they're challenged. They're not just challenged in terms of personnel. They're challenged in terms of coaching because, Pettin, this is not his thing. I know you got Shanahan and those boys there, but in the end, give credit where credit is due. Cleveland deserves it. They showed up. Hoyer deserves a lot of credit. He showed up when it counted, but I never thought that I'd see a Rob Ryan defense look so lost. And I'm telling you right now, any chance that New Orleans has about challenging for a Super Bowl berth, it's riding on the shoulders not of Sean Payton, but of Rob Ryan. Rob Ryan has got to coach this defense. He's got to coach this defense. It's just that simple.
I can still see him winning the division. There's no way they're going to get to the Super Bowl.
No, I'm just saying. To me, it's all about winning enough games during the regular season to get home field advantage.
That's what you think.
The Saints are all about. I would never pick the Saints if I know they have to go on the road to win playoff games. I believe in the Saints in New Orleans, in that Mercedes-Benz Dome. That's where I believe in New Orleans. If they don't show up, we got a problem. They don't get enough wins, and they don't have a home game, we got a problem.
And remember, they still have to go to Dallas, so that's an obvious loss, right?
No.
I just had to throw that in.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
I'd pay to hear Rob Ryan and Sean Payton yesterday.
Ooh,
so we get that wired, right? There was a fight over the weekend on Saturday. Floyd Mayweather kept his WBC welterweight championship and raised his record to 47-0 by winning his rematch against Marcos Maidana. Unanimous decision. A third fight not necessary. Skip Bayless.
Terry Champion.
I followed your timeline. I thought you were Dan Rayful. You were giving us play-by-play.
I was. I love these fights.
Yeah, apparently.
Quote-unquote fights. I got to put quotes around them.
You don't think it was a fight?
I don't think it was a fight. I thought it was straight comedy. I got my money's worth because I laughed from the 8th round on. I laughed and laughed. The post-fight interviews, I laughed and laughed. I could not go to sleep because I was still laughing about what I had seen. Because Stephen A. Smith, I'm not sure this was boxing. It was wrestling. I've never seen anything like it before. It's clutch, it's grab, it's headlocks, it's hold on for dear life in the corner. It's Floyd saying, I'm just going to wrap this man up so he cannot pummel me on the ropes the way he did in the first fight. So then we get to the 8th round, and I think I'm scoring the fight. I got it still really close in the 8th round. Oh, please. I did. I had it even. I wound up 115, 112 like one of the judges did.
Barely had it.
So what happens in the 8th round?
Oh, my goodness.
My man Floyd, he's of course got Maidana in a headlock. He's got him in a headlock. And he is what you call lacing Maidana. He's taking his glove, the underside of his glove, and just rubbing it in the man's face, which is abrasive. It's like cutting you. You can't breathe, and you're just trying to get free of him. And then Floyd backs up and says, he bit me. Now, wait a second. He's got a mouthpiece in, and Floyd has a pretty thick glove on, and he bit him, and he could feel it? How can you bite through a glove and feel it? And then Floyd says after the fight, after the 8th round, My left hand went numb.
Wait, so it's safe to say you don't believe him?
I do not believe him 1 second.
Okay.
I could see no bite. Some people reported they could see a bite. I saw no bite.
The mouthpiece.
And even if he tried to bite, well, even if you could bite with your mouthpiece, but
sure.
I'm not sure it's going to do a whole lot of damage because you got a glove on, and they're not the thickest of gloves, but it's a leather glove, and it's going to protect you a little bit from the power of a bite, and you would have to hang on like a pit bull, just hanging on to make his hand go numb. Are you serious?
So
I'm laughing thinking about it. And you know what? I got to give it up to Floyd.
Okay.
He was in a little bit of trouble in this fight, and he knew it. And this was a brilliant psychological tactic because it's so shocking that he backs off and says, he bit me. Not on the ear, heaven forbid, although it was the same ring in the same place in which the Tyson bite of Holyfield took place. But
Holyfield was there.
Yeah, he was there. He was there. That's a good point. So now he backs off, and the whole arena is in shock. The announcers can't figure out. Wait a minute. You're saying he bit you? How? Why? Well, and again, Maidana was so mixed up and just flustered by it. After the 9th round, Maidana went to the wrong corner. It got him. It discombobulated him. He could not refocus. And from that point on, I thought it turned the tide in the fight. So I give it up to you, Floyd. A brilliant ring tactic, which had nothing to do with boxing, actually, to win a fight in which Maidana skated through like he had been to the spa. It's like he'd spent the weekend at the spa. There's no marks on his face because Floyd is a powder puff puncher. It's like a pillow fight when you're in it with Floyd. Nothing happens. Yeah, I'll give it to you. He won the fight in the last 4 rounds. But come on, seriously? That was nothing but yucks all night long. Way to go, Floyd. You entertained me.
First of all, there's a litany of errors here. So let's go down the list. Number one, Floyd was bitten. Period.
Oh, please.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Number 2, Skip Bayless, I had Floyd winning 10 of the 12 rounds. The only rounds I had Floyd losing was the 4th round and the 12th where he ran the entire round. He ran the entire round. Those were the only 2 rounds I had Floyd losing. That's number 2.
So wait a second. The 1st and 2nd rounds you gave?
That's right. Absolutely.
He ran and he danced and ran.
He danced around. But listen,
are you kidding me?
There's something to be said. He hit Maidana with some punches in the first 2 rounds. Just because Maidana couldn't hit him, that's his problem. I mean, Floyd ain't standing toe to toe with you. We all know that. But let me get to my point because I want you to hear my whole point and then you can respond because it's going to surprise you some of the things I'm going to say. I thought Floyd won every round but round 4 and round 12. Now, I was on record saying I'm wondering whether or not Floyd going to get touched. I'm wondering whether he's going to get touched or not. He got rocked. In that 4th round, at the end of the 4th round,
I think it was 3rd.
I thought it was the 4th. I thought it was the 4th.
We're right at near the bell.
It could have been the end of it was either the end of the 3rd. He got boom.
Yeah.
And if you saw him, he lost his balance a little bit walking back to the corner because that was right when the round ended, and he got hit. Had he got hit like that in the middle of the round, it would have been very interesting to see how Floyd responded to that because even when Sugar Shane Mosley hit him years ago in the 2nd round and Floyd covered up, composed himself, and then ultimately came back and picked Sugar Shane apart, it would have been interesting to see what he would have done against Maidana this time around. Having said all that, Floyd won the fight. He got bit. He won 10 of the 12 rounds. Acknowledging he got rocked, got his nose and lip busted. Okay, I was clearly wrong about his face not getting touched because it got touched. I must acknowledge to you, I'm starting to get worried about Floyd. And Lord, because he's got my number, I know I'm going to hear from him. It's going to be a bad day for me with what I'm about to say.
What you going to say?
Floyd Money Mayweather is slipping.
Whoa.
He gave himself a C-. He knows he can do better. I know he can do better. But this is the 2nd fight I'm saying that to him in a row. Now, maybe it's just the opponent. I beg to differ. I think that Floyd, the combination, and I'm going to share with y'all a conversation that I had with Floyd, man to man, to his face. Boxing is serious, and nobody appreciates that better than Floyd because of what a magician he is in the ring. But the problem is he's so serious about that money, too, that he takes on promotional obligations as well, because he gets it's a reason he got $32 million guaranteed and Madonna only got $3 million. My problem is that these fighters are no joke, and you're brilliant as a boxer, but it's not like you're Tommy the Hitman Hearns. So they come into the ring willing to maul you, trying to take you out, because their belief is you can't necessarily hurt them. And as a result, they're emboldened to come at you. Elbows, cheap shots, they do everything to Floyd. Victor Ortiz, not Victor, it was Ortiz, okay? He did it to you with the headbutt, and the list goes on and on. Floyd now, it's one thing to be 37. It's another thing to look at.
Right.
He looked at Saturday night. And Skip Bayless, I'm glad you're sitting down, because I'm going to tell you something. The Floyd Mayweather that I saw, I'm not saying it would happen, but the Floyd Mayweather that I saw Saturday night
would lose to
Manny Pacquiao.
Whoa.
He would lose to Manny Pacquiao. Now, I don't believe that Floyd would show up. I believe that the best you'd ever see in Floyd would be that fight, because it would be so big, so mega, and his focus would be at such an astronomical level that I believe the brilliance of Floyd Mayweather would pick Manny Pacquiao apart. But I've never felt, watching Floyd fight, that if he fought that way, he would lose to Pacquiao until Saturday night. It's slippage. Floyd got to get his act together, man, because he's getting hit entirely too much, okay? He's not responding with the fervor I know he can respond with. And whether it's age, it's attrition, or distractions, whether it's promotional and the business side of it, which is what I told you I shared with him. The business side, I think it's too much going on. But I don't know whether it's that personal or whatever. That is not the Floyd Money Mayweather I'm accustomed to seeing. He got hit too much. Even though he looked quick and evasive, there were a couple of times, man, if Madonna had caught him with those shots, because Floyd is moving, and I'm talking about Madonna coming by like just missing him. I mean, before, Floyd would be at the other side of the ring by the time somebody followed through with a punch. Now you're sitting there like, whoa, that was close. And Madonna don't have the speed of Manny Pacquiao. Madonna doesn't have the speed of Cotto. Madonna doesn't have the speed of Canelo Alvarez. It's getting dangerous. Floyd says he's going to retire next September. He's got 3 fights left. He needs to do that. He needs to.
So no Pacquiao?
No, I'm talking about after these 3 fights.
Oh, after 3.
But he needs to really hunker down, because the Floyd Mayweather that I'm watching right now, I'm getting worried.
Okay, I have to ask, because you and Floyd are close. Are you sure he didn't put you up to saying this to hype the Pacquiao fight?
Never.
To hype interest in it?
First of all, I respect the question. I'm not going to be assaulted by it. No one.
I'm half kidding.
Yeah, all right, because no one does that to Stephen A. I don't play that game. But I will tell you, I would never do that.
This is classic fight hype, where people would start to think, wait, maybe Floyd is slipping. We got to see him against Pacquiao.
I only know Floyd the boxer. I don't talk to Floyd about, I told you he's confided in me about some other things that he's been through, and I appreciate that. But when I say I love Floyd Mayweather the boxer. You understand? I don't get into all that other stuff, because there's other things that I don't approve of. I don't agree with. Okay. But let me say this. It bothers me because I know how great he is, and I know what he means to the sport. But he's so focused on the money.
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. I got to get paid. Yeah. I respect it. But you know something? Taking on that added responsibility might indeed be taking something away.
Distraction, sure.
Hey, you can't do that with Pacquiao and these boys. Not these next 3 fights.
You talk about his money. It's an interesting note. Our producer just sent this to me. Normally, Floyd obviously brings in a lot of betting attractions, but this fight, according to the MGM Vice President of Race and Sports, attracted less than 50% of the betting action that his fights normally give out.
And that was the
specifically Canelo Alvarez.
That was the argument I got into Floyd with. I was like, why are you taking this fight? You already fought him. You have nothing to win and everything to lose. Yeah. Because even if you beat Madonna, nobody cares.
Yeah, and according to this note, no one cares.
Why? And they don't care about Madonna.
Well, not no one, but
I'm just saying. Okay. I'm just saying. Listen, man.
Let's hear the pay-per-view numbers, though.
All right,
he'll make his money.
He'll make his money regardless, but less interest. We're talking about Manny Pacquiao perhaps moving forward. But
I liked it.
The question was, and you didn't let me ask the question. Of course you liked it. He had his yucks. Were you impressed by Mayweather's win?
I was not impressed.
Neither was I.
I was not impressed.
The gentlemen were not impressed.
I commute from Schenectady to Manhattan. It's about a 6-hour round trip. But it's cool. My family loves Schenectady, and I love books on tape. It's a lot of time to spend driving alone. On the other hand, Schenectady is really close to the highway, so...
Life is a long drive. Make sure your car is along for the ride. Mobile Super Motor Oil is formulated to help prevent sludge and protect against wear. Mobile Super for long engine life.
Yesterday, the Chargers upset the Seahawks, and according to the San Diego Union Tribune, Keenan Allen, along with some other Chargers, said Richard Sherman was officially exposed. Allen had 5 receptions for 55 yards and made several catches against Sherman. He wasn't so impressed with Richard Sherman. Wasn't that impressed. Here's his quote. Hey, just a normal guy. We can go at him. We took some shots at him. We are not going to shy away from him. He's not really a shutdown corner. We definitely wanted to come out and show we could go any way we wanted to and that we were in control of the game. We welcome in our NFL analyst, Eric Allen. No relation to Keenan Allen.
No. Unfortunately.
But you do live in San Diego.
Oh, yeah. Live in San Diego. Same last name on the back of the jersey.
It's a lot of similarities here. Does he have a point, Richard Sherman?
Well, first of all, every good corner has that guy who gives you issues.
Okay.
I mean, we all do, you know. And
who was yours? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Gary Clark for the Redskins.
Yeah. Okay.
Give me fits.
Okay.
No one else fits. And Eric Martin, Saints gave Deron fits.
Okay.
Michael Irvin gave Rod Woodson fits. We all have them. And if you watch this game, see, Sherman, big, long, physical. What gives guys like that issues is quick, explosive guys. Guys, the line of scrimmage who almost disappear. And you see that time and time again. Keenan Allen is an outstanding player. Had over 70 receptions last year, 1,046 yards. But we call in that first phase, when you're at the line of scrimmage, a big physical guy wants to go against a big 6'3" guy, get your hands on it. You can't get your hands on Keenan Allen. So again, and the Chargers did an outstanding job yesterday of making Sherman flip-flop. So they would go 3 receivers on one side. They would force him to go and play the slot, which he's not comfortable in doing. Outstanding job.
So why don't more teams do that?
Yeah.
Because they're not inventive like the Chargers. They don't have the personnel the Chargers have. They don't have Antonio Gates, who had 3 touchdowns yesterday, who can expose Cam Chancellor at the same. They're trying to double Gates. So make sure that if you're going to double Gates, you put a 3rd receiver on the other side, make Richard Sherman go and guard the slot. He's not comfortable in the slot because you have to be quick in the slot, and that's not one of his strong points. So again, when you talk about this specific game, Richard Sherman struggled and had some issues. Didn't give up many, he had 5 catches. Keenan Allen had 5 catches. He's an extremely, extremely explosive guy. And again, those kind of guys are going to give the bigger corner a lot of problems.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Eric, I just want to make sure I'm clear on what you're saying. If they have the personnel, was that the blueprint to expose the secondary or Richard per se?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But everyone doesn't have that personnel. And that's what you got to come back to. You have to really work within your system and your personnel groupings. Now, the next team, like the 49ers don't have a receiver on their roster like Keenan Allen that has that quick burst ability. They don't have a guy, even though Vernon Davis is a better athlete than Gates. Gates is a more experienced basketball type guy. When he gets to the top of his route, he bends and gives you a little hip and then disappears to the sideline. And you have a guy like Rivers, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, who has a great understanding and rhythm with Antonio Gates. So again, they can take care of the middle of the football field with Gates and take care of the outside part of the football field with those quick receivers. Eddie Royal also, that kind of receiver, also had 4 or 5 catches. So again, not every team is going to have those type of weapons to be able to use against the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay, so Keenan Allen's bottom line, this is not really a shutdown corner in Richard Sherman. Do you buy that?
No, he's a shutdown corner.
Okay.
I mean, you could say for the first game. They didn't even test him the first game. And that's Aaron Rodgers, one of the best elite quarterbacks in the league.
Don't bring that up. That is just, that's very annoying.
Didn't go at him.
Annoying. Didn't go at him at all.
At all.
Inexcusable.
A free day.
Inexcusable.
He went to the window and got his check. Didn't even play. And his shoes weren't even untied.
That's true.
You know, you can't do that. And that's what the Chargers wanted to do. They wanted to make sure they made Richard Sherman uncomfortable. And that's the one thing when we start talking about shutdown corners. Right now, Richard Sherman is one of the best. Darrelle Revis is one of the best. He had a shaky first game. Darrelle Revis had an interception yesterday, played tremendous yesterday.
He might as well have been running around on that one. I mean, he wasn't even defending the receiver. He just said, look, Castle, here I am,
and
throw
when
it
you
to me.
start talking about it, most of the guys talk about Richard Sherman's failure to go left, middle, inside, wherever you want to go, and which Revis will do. Right now, those are the two best guys, or most consistent guys. And for me, I'm going to take Revis because Revis will go anywhere and play against anyone.
Let me say this, guys. I love Richard Sherman's game.
Mm-hmm.
I love his bravado. I love his mentality. I like how he goes at it. But I love the versatility that Revis displays. And if you are Richard Sherman, here to me is the number one thing that you have to knock him for. And I got to knock Richard Sherman about this. Mm-hmm. He deserves his money. He deserves to be recognized as one of the best in the game. You cannot talk as much as you talk, and then the game ends after a loss and you can't be found.
Thank you.
You are quoted everywhere, and then all of a sudden you lose and you're nowhere to be found. There's an APB out for you, and then we find you on Twitter. No. You better than that, big time. You better than that. There's no excuse for that.
I agree.
There's no excuse for that.
I agree.
Because again, now we're wondering, can you be rattled? Mm-hmm. Because, of course, it's just 3 receptions. Richard Sherman was accurate. What big plays were made against him? No, but nothing earth-shattering happened against him. Cornerbacks give up receptions all the time.
Right.
There's no crime in that. But when you play one side, which is the left side, you ain't playing in the slot. You ain't going over to the right. You're not exhibiting and displaying the level of versatility the Petersons, the Revises of the world, the Verners of the world are seen to display. Then what you're doing is what you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not as gifted as they are.
Right.
But it does open the door.
It opens a crack up.
For skepticism.
Exactly.
So if the door for the skepticism, debate, whatever, it all falls in line when we're analyzing and evaluating you.
Right.
But the one thing that is indisputable is that who would have ever thought Richard Sherman couldn't be found?
Yeah. He's the number one talking about gift of gab. He's number one.
To explain yourself.
You got to show up.
So everybody's complaining, they lost the game. The Legion of Boom didn't resemble the Legion of Boom yesterday. San Diego went right at them.
I think they all needed IVs.
I'm just saying, with that heat, with that 18-degree temperature on the field, I mean, we understand these things happen.
Yep.
But you can't be a dude. You on Monday morning quarterback.
Hey.
You are on the tube. You are going off, and then you lost. And we can't find you.
Well,
that can't happen. You
every
got to
other
show
commercial, including yours, with him.
Alberto.
Beef jerky.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand.
You get out.
I don't know where the
There's no question about it. And Richard Sherman did what he did.
Yeah.
All I'm saying to you is that mad respect for his abilities, his skills. He earned his money. Yeah. But you cannot disappear after a loss. To me, that is the story. It's nothing about the game. It's the fact that you couldn't be found after the game.
So
can't happen.
You're still being that little voice in his stomach, right? Saying, hey, where are you going, Richard? Get back in that locker room and talk to those reporters.
Well, clearly I'm not, because if I was the voice in his stomach, he would have spoke.
It's on you, Bayless.
I thought Keenan Allen should have pulled his punch. I thought it was a cheap shot on his part, because they don't have to play again, like this year. I don't know when they play again. But I think Keenan Allen has to be better than that, because Richard Sherman has proven to be a shutdown corner.
Sure.
Now, he is long and he is tall, and he is a long strider. And so obviously, if Kaepernick tries him deep on Crabtree, who is no blazer, Richard Sherman's going to get his hand on that ball, especially if you throw it on a line.
All right.
But Keenan Allen, as you said, is just quick. He's so quick, he disappears at the line of scrimmage, as is Eddie Royal, might be even quicker at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. So they got Richard Sherman 3 times. Keenan got him twice, turned him completely around on one little inside release, and got him on an out route, and then Eddie Royal got him on a little out, quick out. Okay, that's going to happen. I'm glad they tried it. That's vintage Phillip Rivers, who says, okay, I'm not going to really dare the devil over here, but there's some stuff I know I can do. Because I'm going to keep our field balance here. Right. By the way, Floyd on the other side only had one target, no catches.
That's right.
So they knew exactly what they were doing. But again, Richard Sherman, that there is a way to beat him if you have the personnel, and I don't think many teams are going to have that kind of personnel. But it gives you a little, to your question, a little bit of a blueprint for the teams that do have a quicker receiver. Try to get him isolated, try to flip him into the slot, or just keep him, try to get him alone over there where Cam Chancellor can't come up and help, or whoever's on this side.
And again, what that ultimately does is when you're in the draft and you're San Francisco and you're Arizona and that guy pops up in the 3rd or 4th round, you're going to grab that guy. Because you got to play the Seahawks twice. And if you have a guy like that on your roster, now you can start to make that adjustment in the 4th quarter when you're in the red zone, and now you can put him over there on Richard Sherman, and you can make them work. You know he's going to have a day with him, and you can work with everyone else. So, again, it just shows you what you can do if you have that personnel on your roster.
To me, Phillip Rivers made Aaron Rodgers look very bad because he went in that direction. Keenan Allen made Jordy Nelson look very bad. You know how talented Green Bay is. You know what kind of offensive firepower that they have. To not even attack Richard Sherman.
Even with Randall Cobb.
Randall Cobb. I mean, how do you not even
A lot of it is predicated on the presence of Antonio Gates, though, because Antonio Gates takes a linebacker and a safety out of the mix. And now you're working one-on-one backside. And you have to do more zone concept stuff.
I totally get that. Yeah. But at the same time, because you don't have that tight end if you're Green Bay, because you don't have that Jermichael Finley in his heyday, for example, that could do something similar to that, then what are your alternatives, particularly when Eddie Lacy ain't getting yardage or ultimately he's getting concussed? You have the best arm in football. Yeah. You've got to go for it. It's your only hope.
Formation recognition. Okay, that's more than just quarterback. That's offensive coordinator, head coach, finding ways to get your formations based so you can be in your strength.
It's Rodgers and McCarthy.
That's right.
Because McCoy and Phillips were willing to put it together.
There you go. Right there.
Right, Eric Allen, posing as our shutdown analyst. We appreciate it.
Posing?
Yes, you were really good. He brought it, right?
Trying to. Got to pick my game up down here.
You do.
That's right.
You never want to get hurt. You want to be out there and be available for your teammates. It was just an unfortunate situation because it wasn't on a hit or anything. It's just something that happened. So we'll see what happens tomorrow and whatever information comes out and know whatever the timetable is from there. But, right now, kind of just focused on Philly, trying to do what I can to help this team win and, help Kirk and Colt go out there and be prepared to play football. I believe, and I know a lot of people believe, that Kirk is going to go out there and play extremely well, and this team is going to win games because we have a very good team that's on that field. So one guy doesn't define this team. That includes me.
Griffin was carted off the field in the first quarter against the Jags, and Kirk Cousins stepped in, as he just mentioned, and stepped up, completing a 20-yard touchdown pass on his first throw. Without RG3 and Deshaun Jackson, who injured his shoulder, the Redskins' offense was still strong enough to lead them to a 41-10 victory over Jacksonville. But let's focus on the Redskins and the injured RG3. We talked about it on the show, a hot topic for us. How concerned are you for RG3's future? That is the question. Bayless, your answer.
Stephen A. Smith, I need you to talk me through this.
Yes, sir.
I am extremely concerned about a young man that I once predicted would long-term be better than Andrew Luck, whom we'll see tonight on Monday Night Football.
Yep.
Yes.
And for 1 year, I looked pretty right. And then some bad things started happening. And here's my takeaway, and I need you to respond to this. You won't find a bigger fan of RG3 than me. This is not a good athlete. This is a great athlete.
Yes, sir.
This is Olympic speed and an Olympic-style hurdler.
Used to.
Go
ahead.
But how can you explain, because I'm trying to explain it to myself, that such a great athlete can often look so unathletic while scrambling or running with the football, because he routinely puts himself into awkward spots, with awkward movements that don't look that athletic. Let's go back to how he first hurt his knee, the Haloti Nada hit, the helicopter play in the middle of the field. It was just flat out awkward, like an out of control move that most quarterbacks who are great athletes just would avoid. So that's the first one. Well, what are you doing on that one? So then we go to the end of this is the Seattle play. Remember, he's going sideways. They're about to score the 14-0 touchdown, and he tweaks it again. Well, what was that? You know, what was that? So then we have the slide plays. We had one in the preseason. Yeah, he tried to slide and nearly tore up his knee trying to slide, and we've seen him again and again look awkward sliding. Then yesterday, no contact. He's just running to his right. How many times we see this every game, every quarterback, especially the ones who have some mobility. He's just rolling right, and all of a sudden he plants as he's throwing, and he plants so awkwardly on his left foot that it turns completely over into a dislocated ankle. Well, that's just awkward to me. It's an odd mix of extreme athleticism that can sometimes look unathletic. And if you can't protect yourself on a play like that, that's like an unforced error. You know, that's just where nobody touched you. That's all on you. You can't even plant your left heel solidly enough to keep your ankle upright. I can't defend it anymore because I fear that going forward, if you're going to keep putting yourself in awkward spots like that, you're probably going to get hurt again. And I'm pretty sure he's gone for sure for the rest of this football season. I think he'll have a full recovery from this, but what am I supposed to expect going forward for a man who often gets in such awkward spots?
Skip Bayless, I'm going to say something that I think would shock a few people, but when I put it together, I'm going to predict you're going to end up agreeing with me. I think RG3's injury, while unfortunate, especially for him, because we love his game and we love his upside and we love his potential. And more importantly, even though you said it's RGIII, the fact is he's a pretty good brother with a pretty level head on his shoulders.
Sure.
And the upside is significantly greater. He doesn't deserve to be insulted. But let's be clear about something. This may very well be the best thing that happened to the Redskins. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you're Jay Gruden, you're the new coach. You understand from a historical perspective what kind of relationship RG3 is at least perceived as having had with Mike Shanahan. You also know the relationship he has with the owner, Daniel Snyder. And that Daniel Snyder is a huge supporter of his. So you're Jay Gruden, you walk up in there and you have to support this guy, because supporting this guy and dissecting how you would utilize him to the benefit of himself and the Washington Redskins franchise is probably what got you the job with Daniel Snyder. But then you go into training camp because you're looking to implement your West Coast offense. And one of the pristine organizations in football, who I label America's team, the New England Patriots, is on the record saying privately, this guy's a better fit for Jay Gruden's West Coast offense than, meaning Kirk Cousins is a better fit for Jay Gruden's offense than RG3. Now, if it's from anybody else, it's different. But if it's from the Patriots organization, there's a level of seriousness that has to be absorbed and embraced with that prognostication, or that assertion, rather, because it's the Patriots. So you realize all of that stuff. You're Jay Gruden. You're going in there. You're holding his hand. You're trying to get him adjusted and acclimated to the West Coast offense, understanding that mechanics, fundamentals, footwork, et cetera, more so than athleticism, more so than explosiveness, more so than your dynamism or whatever it is. All of those things play an integral role in your development. And RG3 doesn't necessarily have that. Why? Because that knee injury he's been rehabilitating from. Let me tell you, you are talking to somebody whose college career was shattered because my kneecap cracked in half because I went up for a dunk in my career. In practice, knee exploded, whatever. I'm at a Division II school instead of the Division I school, so all that equipment, all the technology and everything, it didn't go down like that for me. Not that I would have been a pro anyway because I wasn't good enough, but that's a different story. My point is, RG3, when you have a knee injury, everything you do is to rehabilitate the knee. You ain't thinking about the ankle. You ain't thinking about the foot. You ain't thinking about your calf. You ain't thinking about your groin. You ain't thinking about your wrist, your shoulder, your arm. You ain't thinking about anything but the knee, because the knee is such a devastating, debilitating injury. Even when you fully recover from it health-wise, psychologically, you're messed up because it's all about making sure that knee feels as strong as it is. So when you watch him, Skip, listen to what you said. You constantly said RG3 was about north and south, north and south. Well, here's the problem. They're coming at him from his face. So now you got to be Michael Vick. You got to know how to juke somebody. You got to know how to be evasive. That's not RG3. RG3's strength is breakaway speed. It is. And once the knee took away from that, it took away from RG3.
Right.
So RG3 is not RG3 anymore. But Kirk Cousins continues to elevate at the same time. You got a problem in the nation's capital, but one that the organization will benefit from because the organization now has the injury to fall back on as justification for putting in the guy they want.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah, because you said you didn't think he'd make it through the season even if this injury didn't happen.
That's right.
I still don't think Kirk Cousins is a franchise quarterback.
Neither do I.
I think we saw it at the end of the year last year when he started.
But you don't have to be a franchise quarterback to replace the RG3 we've been watching since the injury. That's your problem.
Redskins better with him right now?
With Kirk Cousins right now, yes. RG3 has got to get 100% healthy, and they have to utilize him the way he was being utilized this rookie year. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
All right. We'll leave it there, gentlemen. Skip's Cowboys avoided an 0-2 start yesterday. That means they could still win the division. Thanks in huge part to DeMarco Murray, who rushed for 167 yards and a touchdown to lead the Cowboys past the Titans 26-10. It's interesting because at one point you were not his friend, and then you became his friend again.
I love him today.
Yeah, today you love him.
I did not love him early in that game.
Yeah.
Another fumble when you let a teammate knock the ball out of your hand?
Look, classic, apparently, classic Cowboys.
Accident waiting to happen, right?
However, they're not 0-2. They're 1-1. Stephen A., are the Cowboys better than you thought, is the question.
The answer, Skip Bayless, would be so far. I know, we all know that the Dallas Cowboys don't have a bigger critic than me. I get all of that. I understand it. I'm not going to get too carried away because it was against Tennessee. It was against Jake Locker.
Now, Tennessee went to Kansas City and just cleaned them out.
I understand that. That was the opening game of the season. And Kansas City, I told you, they were relative frauds. I didn't think they were going to be good this year because they started out 9-0 last year. I didn't get caught up in the sauce.
They almost won at Denver yesterday.
So what? I didn't get caught up in the sauce. I'm not going to be caught up now. I don't expect Kansas City to be that good. But I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys defense. They're playing hard. Marinelli is doing a great job with them. He's got them going after cats. They're playing strong. Their secondary doesn't appear as awful. This defense is ranked 11th. They're ranked 12th against the pass. They're respectable. I didn't expect this from their defense. I'm going to give credit where credit is due to Rod Marinelli and the job that he's doing. He's known to be an exceptional defensive coordinator, and he has proven it because what they lack in talent, if you get people to play their area, their zones, to remain disciplined and to play within themselves, you can make things happen on the NFL level. And that is what Rod Marinelli is doing with the defensive side of the ball. And he is to be commended. And the Dallas Cowboys, yes, I said it, they are to be commended for the way they have looked over the last 6 quarters. They have looked very, very impressive. And I give them credit. But here's where it's really, really elevating for me. One stat stood out in my mind, something I never thought they'd do. They gave DeMarco Murray the ball 29 times. 167 yards, 5.8 yards a carry. What have I been saying? They have the talent. They can do some things, but they will get in their own way because they want to be Showtime at Jerry World instead of just winning football games. And they will get in their own way. This is why they are an accident waiting to happen. That is not what I saw yesterday. In key elements of the game, Tony Romo didn't sit there and say, Jason Witten's my boy, I love him dearly, let me throw him the ball. No, he kept looking for Des Bryant. One play after another, Des Bryant, it's yours, okay? And when he wasn't doing that, he gave the ball to DeMarco Murray. You find Des that much, you hand the ball to DeMarco Murray in that ballpark 20 to 25 times a game, you are going to win more games than you lose. That is what I saw from the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. I'm not sold because to me they're still Jerry's boys and they'll find a way to get in their own way and mess it up. But if yesterday is any indication, I will say this. The Dallas Cowboys will be better than 8-8. Whoa. And they will at least challenge the Philadelphia Eagles for the NFC East crown.
Breaking news.
Yeah, he said it.
Breaking news.
Wow. I'm a fair-minded guy. I'm a fair-minded guy.
So wait, my prediction of 10 wins, win division, still afloat.
Still afloat.
Wow.
If we
10
saw,
and 6.
I'm talking about, keep this in mind. If you do what you did yesterday, forget how effective they were. I'm not talking yards or anything. I'm simply understanding Murray and Dez should be the primary offensive options, not Jason Witten.
Okay.
And spreading the ball all over.
Although Jason Witten made a couple of nice plays. I know that, but I'm saying go to your go-to guy.
Okay,
you realize they ran the football 45 times yesterday, and Tony Romo threw it 25 times. I like those numbers. I like the recipe.
That's
that won't last.
Okay.
I don't believe that'll last.
See.
Go ahead.
When I made my prediction that Dallas by default would win the NFC East, I said, and I quote myself, at some point, all these guys on defense get sick and tired of hearing about how historically bad they are and will be. And with Rod Marinelli, who I included in my prediction, one of the great teachers and motivators in the game, at the helm of the defense this year for the first time, maybe they can play over their heads. I think they've played way over their heads for 2 games because, remember, the 49ers only mustered effectively 2 touchdowns because 2 of them were returns. One a fumble for a touchdown and an interception got returned to the 2. So I'm not going to put that on the defense for that touchdown. They gave up 2 Colin Kaepernick touchdown passes. That's on the defense. But yesterday, Jake Locker and company, and by the way, he was awful in the first half, but pretty good in the second half. But they could only get it in the end zone 1 time. So that's 2 touchdowns in the first game, 1 in the second. This is a defense that gave up 40 first downs to the New Orleans Saints on Sunday Night Football last year, NFL record. So I love, like Rod Marinelli is my defensive coordinator of the year so far. And I know it's only 2 games, but I think he's having dramatic impact, as is Rolando McClain.
Yes, he is.
Okay, now he's had his issues. We all know he's had his should I stay or should I go issues. Am I going to retire? Am I going to play? The man can play. He was the 8th pick in the draft for a reason. And that interception he made yesterday, Stephen A., that for a man that big, a linebacker, to juggle that football and then come up clean with it, pretty good, pretty great. He has been the difference maker on a defense that's going to get Skandrick and Spencer back fairly soon. You know, I don't know how much longer.
When it's finalized.
Whenever this thing
New
gets
drug
finalized.
Policy, yes.
Yeah, Orlando Skandrick was the best player on the defense last year. You don't think he'll help a little bit coming back? And Anthony Spencer to rush the passer a little bit? I don't know if his knee's going to be right. But again, I'm looking at them getting a little better as we go forward, and they've been pretty good so far.
Well, again, Dallas can get better schematically. Dallas, their talent can elevate their game to levels a lot of teams in the league simply can't because they don't have the talent to do. That is never the issue with the Dallas Cowboys. The issue with the Dallas Cowboys, which is why I consistently laugh at them, why they are my version of Comedy Central, is because the potential is always there, and they always mess it up for themselves. Nobody takes it away from Dallas. They give it to you. That's my issue with the Dallas Cowboys. You've got DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray, for the last half of the game, for the last half of last season, was the 3rd leading rusher in the NFL. Why in God's name were you not getting him the ball more? When you look at a guy like Des Bryant, you can't tell he's a stud. Yeah. You watch the feature on him, the number 88 with the Drew Pearsons, with the Michael Irvins of the world. Des Bryant lives up to that to that adage, to that criteria. And you don't know to get him the ball religiously, the way he goes all out. You've got to know these things. And the Cowboys seem to get in their own way, but maybe this time is different, right?
Stephen A. Smith says they will win the East.
I did not say that. I did not say that.
Those weren't his words.
I did not say that.
But to Stephen A.'s point, the Cowboys are now 12-1 when DeMarco Murray gets 20+ rushes in a game.
Give that man the ball.
Give him the rock.
Give him the ball.
Hey, hang on to that rock, DeMarco.
Listen, he has no business in this business. I mean, he could work for the CIA for crying out loud. Keep his secrets.
Right.
But
give that man a rock.
Give him the ball.
All right, breaking news here on First Take. The Vikings have announced that running back Adrian Peterson will fully participate in this week's practices and is expected to play this Sunday. in New Orleans. They released a statement which read in part, "Today's decision was made after significant thought, discussion, and consideration, as evidenced by our decision to deactivate him for yesterday's game." So, Stephen A. Smith, he will be able to participate meetings and eventually play Sunday. Should he be playing?
Kerry champion Skip Bayless, with some degree of trepidation, I must confess, I think the Minnesota Vikings are making the right decision. I think they're making the right decision because in the end, as much as we saw the pictures, we don't like it, we consider it excessive, and obviously the label for it is child abuse. When you see slash marks on a child's legs and ankle and back and arms, you're going to reach that conclusion. But it's one line in this statement that resonates with me, y'all.
Okay.
And it's from the Minnesota Vikings, where they said, "At this time, however, we believe this is a matter of due process, and we should allow the legal system to proceed so we can come to the most effective conclusions and then determine the appropriate course of action." The reason why that line resonates with me is because we all sat here at the beginning of the show and we've listened to people talk all over the place while acknowledging, while this appears to be child abuse, everybody says we don't know what should be done. We're not clear.
Yep.
Because the debate is, from a generational perspective, one's upbringing, how one disciplines their child, et cetera, et cetera. And with that being open for discussion,
yep,
and open for debate, why should the Minnesota Vikings allow that to hinder their bottom line if it's open for debate, as opposed to it being something concrete and clear cut? The video of Ray Rice hitting Janae Palmer,
yeah,
there is nothing to debate
at all.
With this Adrian Peterson issue, there's a lot to debate. Although we would consider it abusive, there's a lot to debate. And because there's a lot to debate, if I'm the Minnesota Vikings, I lean on the side of having my best player in uniform.
There's going to be a powerful backlash against this decision.
Yeah.
If I were the Vikings, I would know deep down it will be a bad look for my football team to have him in uniform this coming Sunday. Now, how about our commissioner of this National Football League that's been under heavy and still is under heavy fire for his mishandling of the Ray Rice situation? Could he step in this week, today, tomorrow, intervene by saying, under personal conduct policy, I'm sorry, I have to suspend Adrian Peterson for X games. I don't know what it would be. 4 games, whatever it might be. Though some people would think that would be a light punishment. But as I said earlier, I'm with you. I'm not sure how to punish this because it's never happened before. So I'm wondering, in the wake of Ray Rice and the climate that we're in, will the commissioner now step in and overrule the Minnesota Vikings? I'm going to think that he will.
Really?
May I ask this question? Because I don't have the answer. In the aftermath of what transpired with Ray Rice over the last week or so, we saw folks, females, coming to the games in support of Ray Rice. Yesterday at the Minnesota Vikings game, some woman who can be described as nothing short of reprehensible showed up with a switch in a Minnesota Vikings uniform in support of Adrian Peterson. So if you're Commissioner Roger Goodell, how do you gauge that? I don't know.
Okay, those are home team fans.
Those are home team fans.
I agree.
And you're not saying it's right or it's wrong.
No.
But what we're saying, it's uncomfortable. And
of course it's uncomfortable.
I don't think that anybody, as you said, can give any type of punishment that would make sense for anybody.
I'm just saying that if you're Roger Goodell, again, Ray Rice is an easy call because there's nothing to debate. With Adrian Peterson, in the eyes of some folks, there's a lot to debate.
Yep.
And if there's a lot to debate, how do you definitively say there's nothing to debate and this is the decision?
Yep.
I don't know if you do that. I don't know how you do that.
But in light of those pictures that we saw of that 4-year-old,
playing Sunday?
Ooh, boy, a lot of people.
I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
Yes, you say.
I don't like it.
No, I would not have made the decision if I'm the Minnesota Vikings. I just don't blame them for doing it. I understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
But for me, he would be sitting. He would be sitting.
A tough subject, folks, to tackle.
At least for a couple of more weeks.
For these last few weeks in the NFL. Teachable moments for us. We'll talk about this tomorrow on First Take. We'll see you then at 10 a.m. Eastern.